Hey you, it's true! With a new Evertale Arena tier list based on 2000 top teams worldwide. You had to wait for this for a while, and we also had some earthquakes in the Evertale meta, so let's get right into it. Dark Ludmilla is the first new unit that we are going to tier, and looking at her skill set, you might ask yourself, what is she? Is she a guard? Is she a support? Is she a DPS? The answer is of course D, all of the above. She is not a full-time guard, but she takes Ludmilla and Clarice's deadly guard mechanic and combines it with similar guarding abilities of the likes of Light Anya and Cerberus. At the same time, similar to Hichikata, she gains stealth whenever she is attacked, which combined with her hold ground plus is extremely nice to ignore various incoming attacks and stay alive and keep herself purified most of the time. And then she also takes inspiration from Dark Cinderella. She has that spirit steal, that spirit crash even with the Unleash Chaos, and all her attacks permanently ignore survival passives and actives, so she could very well execute some units with her full force or her degrading slice. And on top of all that, she also additionally helps her teammates by distributing stealth all the time. Now I have to stop myself before this turns into a Dark Ludmilla review, I already did that. So all that I guess is a very long-winded way of explaining why Dark Ludmilla goes to the SSS tier. Triple S tier for a 3-sided unit seems quite fitting. After that we got Elizabeth, and while this water unit brings a lot of fresh stuff to the table, has some nice entry effect, ways to get turns, execute and sleep units on the enemy team, she is a bit of a victim of the current meta, which doesn't favor sleep at all. And the subsequent storm releases afterwards are not doing her any favors either by both being sleep immune, but we get to those in a bit. For now, Elizabeth just makes it into the S tier. We got another dark unit right afterwards in Dark Clarice, and in some ways she reminds me a bit of Cthulhu with some RNG poison skill set built in, but she can absolutely go lethally crazy, even more so in war than in arena I think. She also has much more variety in her 3 pictures, which I appreciate, but that is not the reason why she goes to SS tier, just about making it in there. That is because she does have some weaknesses, and I also think that sometimes she just has to walk this kind of fine line of wanting enemies to be poisoned, because that's her life insurance to a degree against non-execute skills, but at the same time sometimes she also wants no enemies to be poisoned to get another turn kind of, and she is just not as steamrolly as Cthulhu was back in the days. Cthulhu, who shares that tier with her, still brings some potential guarding and hypnosis to the table as well, and still the super reliable get turn purify mechanic. But after that double dark event we got a double storm release in Nike and Chronos. Nike caused a bit of a scandal because an exploit together with Lubu meant kind of infinite stuns for burn teams using Lubu and Nike, so Zigzag pulled the unit and modified the skill set. Lucky for those who pulled her very early, they refunded all the soulstones spent on the Nike banner, but you still got to keep Nike. Now that the skill set has been changed, Nike is still a good unit. She gets turns when units attack her that haven't killed anyone yet, which is not quite as helpful towards, you know, later parts of arena battles. She has a nice stun barrage, a nice support skill set, but all in all her damage output is a bit lacking, and while she can execute and is sleep immune, she has quite a lot of weaknesses against poison and the like. Seems like overall not that many benefited from the free Nike drop at the top, which makes sense because waiting for the lucky fountain for those extra fountain rewards is usually the most optimal strategy. But even afterwards, it seems like not that many picked up Nika because she has the lowest usage in the top 35 of my data with just 13% right now. She goes to the S as in Storm tier. Maybe more people were waiting for Chronos instead. And while this Storm Stun unit does feel a little bit clunky sometimes, when she pops off, she can be absolutely brutal. A killing machine reminiscent of Musashi, and while I do think her time stop is sometimes a bit underwhelming to watch and her hold ground plus is a bit difficult to reset, with a little help on her side, she gets to undo the existence of 2 enemy units that are above 300 time units, and after that she is off to the races. A high damage dealing armor ignoring execute skill in the Sands of Time, an additional nice passive that constantly has a chance of stunning opponents and lowering her allies' time units. And while you have to take it with a grain of salt because this is very early data, Chronos goes straight to the SSS tier, and it really does seem like we are yet again in another Storm era of the Evertale meta, which will also be visible in the tier changes we are going to cover now. We are starting from the bottom with possibly not the best example after what I just said, because it's Storm Imran who is dropping from the F to the Graveyard tier. Granted, in my opinion, he wasn't even a good unit in 2019, and now it's 6 years later, so I guess something similar can be said about Water Reset, one of the OG characters in the story as well. This sleep char going to the G tier fits the pattern of this month's tier changes much better though. Dropping from the E to the F tier, we have Earth Jirel, the cloning unit. Also Light Haku, the deer girl that is a good support unit, not doing so well right now, as is Momoka, the water emergency guard that is more cow themed. Then there's also Apollo and Artemis, the only ever burn stealth unit. And last but not least, the original Storm Anya, the former #1 from 2021, is out of the top 100 now. Now on the plus side, we see 2 Storm units rise to the E tier in Storm Rolosha and Orzakron, both of which have some strong stun entry effects. Not much else to offer at this point in the meta, but what can I say, Storm is back in fashion, baby. Not quite back in fashion are older guards with the increased offering right now, that makes sense, like Ludmilla. The first ever 100% auto guard drops to the E tier. Interestingly, switching places with none other than the original Storm Lancelot, who rides the current Storm wave up to the D tier, although I would expect this to be a temporary thing. While Storm units go up, sleep units go down. Otto Hime needs to take a drop from the C to D tier. She has the super strong sleep entry skill that is not that super strong anymore, to be totally fair. And she switches places with none other than Himiko, so I suppose this is great to see for her fans to have this little revival. Another He unit drops though, it's Hichikata, who goes from A to B tier. Honestly, not much she can do right now with the Storm meta. She was kind of the last unit released that had a strong guard breaker skill, but she cannot do anything against this new Anya with the additional elemental disadvantage. Still a very good entry unit though. And another water sleep unit suffering is Cinderella, who joins her older dark version in the B tier. Her very strong abilities to sleep or to consistently sleep her opponents were much stronger 11 months ago when she came out. But now she is not only facing problems with the meta, but also not having any execute skills is also an issue. Looking further up Earth, Sun Wukong is also going down to the A tier. I think she got a bit shafted by Zigza's release schedule. 2 strong fire units coming out after her didn't help the general sleep nerfs that are currently going on. And even though she has the elemental advantage against new Anya, the disabling is actually a huge problem for Sun Wukong. Though sometimes, especially in later platoons in Arena, she can still pop off and turn your whole battle around. Chronos is also a unit that might struggle against her. The sad news for sleep teams don't stop there. Tristan also goes down to the A tier, although to the very top of the A tier. Nearly 50% still use her, but also towards later platoons for the most part. The disabling pulse is just not as strong anymore as it once was, with a lot of these new units actually getting immovables, besides all the ways they can get purified from sleep. Interestingly, burn units also don't have much time for Schadenfreude either. Shenlong and Lu Bu are both going down to the A tier as well, which is interesting because all of them are stun immune, and I imagine units like Chronos still struggle against burn teams, but it seems like there are enough remedies now for these units to drop a little bit in their popularity and their strength in terms of impacting arena results. Now the last big drop for a water unit, because there are just no other units left to drop. Musashi also goes down to the S tier, losing a lot of true power over the last weeks. The storm meta is pure poison for her, no pun intended, and her downfall was definitely introduced when new Anya came out, who is just such a strong counter to any Musashi shenanigans. But nearly 60% still use her, which is testament to the fact that this unit that is over 1 year old once had extreme influence over the Evertale meta, even topping the SSR world rankings once. Now another drop is Avatar Ludmilla, who doesn't have great synergies with Dark Ludmilla, which might be part of the reason for her drop. Of course, with guards coming back strong in the meta, Avatar Ludmilla has lost her place a little bit. Still nice to play the stun absorber if there are no guards around and give that additional barrier, but her survivability is a bit of an issue. Now taking her place in the SS tier is Storm Kirin. I still think her AI is a bit wonky sometimes, but she definitely earns the place in the SS tier right now. In this kind of storm meta, there's really no other unit you really want in the 5th position of an arena team. I think this is probably the most popular choice for that spot right now, and for good reason, because her entry effect is just very nice, and even at 1 copy, if she survives, she can pull off a lot of back and forth stunning of the enemy teams, also supporting your own team a little bit. And yes, the kind of execute skill that she has in the Divine Lightning is a bit RNG driven, a bit too RNG driven for my taste, but sometimes she can hit just right, and I guess this is the reason why she doesn't go much higher there, but still great impact on current arena battles. An impact that has been quite diminished for another prior top unit in Kojiro. She is going down to the SS tier, and while she's still super tanky, can hold her own, has all that countering going on, with the advent of new Anya, things are very problematic for her up front in battles. She can't pull off her usual turn routine. She really struggles to get early kills if she doesn't get help from other teammates potentially, who might plant imposters on enemy teams. And as such, she can no longer keep the SSS tier, even though it was just 2 months or so ago that she was still reigning supreme as the top DPS. And she is still a great all-rounder DPS, don't get me wrong, especially in later platoons or in younger servers, also still in front. Besides the new joiners, that just leaves us with the number 1 unit, new Anya at the top of the SSS tier. I dropped her name quite a few times in this video already, so you already know what's up. Her disable, hands down, is still much better than Chronos' time stop. She is mega tanky, has great support and barrier skills for your team. Pretty much any team can use new Anya, which is also a great part of her skill set and also why she's so clearly number one, even though she is a guard. She is actually the first guard to ever climb to that number one spot, and she seems poised right now to keep this for a while. But beware, she absolutely needs full commitment, she needs a full awakening, she needs all the resources pumped into her as much as possible. That is the point where she really becomes a menace, staying alive hundreds of time units longer than most or all other guard options. So it's also not a surprise that she comes with the highest mana cost by far in my upcoming Carrot Cup community tournament. All infos on the true Discord server linked in the description. But yeah, so if you only have soulstones for one copy, only pull if you intend to fully awaken her later on. She needs your full investment. So here it is, the new tier list based on all the top Champions Arena teams worldwide. Japan, Asia, Europe, Americas. If you are top 50 anywhere there, your team impacts these ratings. This takes many hours to put together, so I would really appreciate it if you take a second to click that like button. I very much appreciate your support. So all in all, we have yet another violent uprising of the Storm units right now, being at the top of the meta, while Earth units are at their weakest point in the entire history of Evertale. So I'm really curious to see what Zigzar has cooked up with the upcoming new Earth Relosha. Can she turn this dynamic around and dampen Storm's hopes? Of course, you can expect my review on her on this very channel, so make sure to subscribe to become a true carrot if you haven't already. And as always, thanks for watching.